heard by the rishi or the sages, the Indian sages for a long time. So this is the reason why we say they had been compiled, the rishi not composed, the sage. The Brahmana, name of the Vedic scripture, which explain the proper procedure for performing Vedic sacrifices. Yanshya, Vedic sacrifices, explained by the scripture named Brahmana, which explain the proper procedure for performing Vedic sacrifice, were composed around 800 BCE, before Christianity, and philosophical texts of the early Upanishad. In the time of Upanishad, the Brahmanism developed into what we call the philosophical idea. Philosophical there. It's argued about for example, the existence of ourself and universal self, individual self and universal self. So the scripture Upanishad very important to study about the ancient Indian philosophy, especially Vedic philosophy. The Upanishad, early Upanishad. We have early Upanishad and later Upanishad, right? They own the Upanishad, later Upanishad. The early Upanishad were compiled around 500 BCE before Christianity. So we can say that the scripture Upanishad were compiled maybe after the Buddha time, or maybe at the Buddha time, or after the Buddha time. So we can see the Buddha was born in the ancient Indian society before the time of Upanishad, or maybe at the time of Upanishad. There are many opinions about this by a scholar, right? By the scholar, like a Buddhist scholar, Hindu scholar, the historical scholar, Indian historical scholar. They have disagreement about this. For some Buddhist scholar, for example, Professor Laumani Soshi, he said the Upanishad period came after the Buddha time, right? After the Buddha, not before the Buddha time. Okay. India. Next point I would like to talk about India or Indian society at the Buddha time. As you may know, at the time of the Buddha, there were two primary classes of religious practitioners in India. I mean, the primary classes, the two primary classes of religious practitioners in India. And that is Brahmana and Sramana. Brahmana and Sramana. When the Buddha taught the Dhamma, for example, when he taught the Dhamma in, for example, Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, right? He mentioned the Brahmana and Samana. For example, one passage of Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. Edam bhagavata bharana siyang isipatane mi kathaye อนุตตลังดัมมาจักกังปวัตติตังอัปปวัตติยังสมเนนะวาปรามเนนะวาสมเนนะวาปรามเนนะวา so สมเนนะวา here mean the sramana or samana in Pali sramana Sanskrit or ascetic the ascetic practitioner and the brahmana the one who practice or the one who follow the tradition the Vedic tradition. Okay, the brahmana a representative of the more traditional type of practitioner were followers of Vedic religion who officiate at sacrifices, who officiate at sacrifices. At the same time, they devoted themselves to seeking the absolute through the study of a philosophy that identify Atman or self, individual self, or yourself, myself. We all have what we call, according to the Vedic philosophy, we all have the essence or unchanging substance or essence within ourselves called Atman or Atta in Pali, right? Atman Sanskrit, Atta Pali. They identify Atman with Brahman. Brahman here mean the universal self or international universal self or the great self, the big self, the great self, universal self. He exists in the universe, but we cannot identify where it is, but on around the universe, everywhere in the universe. And Atman is a particular or individual self, yourself, myself, impermanent self, unchanging self, right? The essence of all people in the world. So the Brahmana, the Vedic philosophy identify Atman with Brahman. Okay. The second type of religious practitioner we call Samana in Pali or Sramana in Sanskrit. As I just said in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, Samanena va Brahmanena va. And Sramana means person who strive. What a new type of figure not mentioned in the older Upanishad. I mean the older Upanishad. There are many kind of Upanishad as scripture, Upanishad scripture. Some Upanishad older, some newer, some older, some newer, some later. But here we mean the older Upanishad. For example, Shan, maybe Shan Kotaya Upanishad, something like that. He abandoned his home to live a life of wandering and begging. Samana or Sarvana here not mean Buddhist monk only, not only Buddhist monk, but the tradition of the one who leave, who abandon family or abandon their home to lead a life of wandering. Not only Buddhism monk in at the Buddha time, even the Buddha belong to the Saramana tradition, right? Belong to one of Saramana movement, Saramana tradition at that time. Saramana devoted himself to controlling and limiting his desire. Desire in Buddhism we call tanha, right? His desires, practicing yoga or meditation, and performing severe religious austerity. Like one extreme at the Buddha time. One of two extreme, right? Or self mortification, self-torture, right? Self-torture, religious authority in the forest to experience the absolute or to escape from death, to escape death. So as you know, in the Buddha life, right? The story of the Buddha, right? One time he went to practice self-mortification or Attakilamathanu yoga, and he said in Dhammacakkavatana Sutta, right? Tave me pikkave anta pappashitena na sevitapha yojayang kamesu kama sukhalika nu yoko hino khammo potutsuniko analiyo anatta sanhito yojayang attakilamathanu yoko tukho analiyo anatta sanhito. Monk in English, monk, these two extremes should not be followed by one who leave the family, one who has gone forth into homelessness. What are the two? The pursuit of sensual happiness in sensual pleasure, which is low, vulgar, the way of worldly, ignoble, unbeneficial, right? Anatta sanhita, unbeneficial. The pursuit of self-mortification. Right? This is what we call religious authority. Religious authority. The pursuit of self-mortification, which is painful, ignoble, and unbeneficial. Yojayang attakilamathanu yoko tukho analiyo anatta sanhito. Okay, this is the way of Saramana at the Buddha time, as the ancient Indian background at the Buddha time. Okay, let me talk more about a religion named Brahmanism. Right? You may say Hinduism, but Hinduism is the developed religion. The religion developed or influenced by the Brahmanism. Maybe the later Brahmanism, not Brahmanism exactly. Brahmanism was based on acceptance of the scripture known as the Veda, thought to be eternal teaching from the universe, which had been heard. Saruti had been heard, or like we we said like in the Buddhist Sutta the Tipitaka Buddhist Sutta the Ananda Thela Venerable Ananda he said Eva me sutang that have I heard. For example, in Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, Eva me sutang ekang samayang pakava savatiyang vihrati. Paranasiyang vihrati isipatane mikathaye. That have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling in Varanasi at the deer park of Istipatana, something like that. So for Venerable Ananda, on the Sutta, on the Buddha teaching, heard by him, not his idea, not his teaching, but is what he had heard from the Buddha. Right. So this is the reason why he said at the beginning of many sutta, Evam me sutta, that have I heard. So same according to Brahmanism, the Veda, there are many different Veda. The Veda had been heard by the sages, at a certain time in the past. Many sages, many rishi, many sages heard the Veda, the teaching in the Veda. Many different schools of philosophy are said to have developed at this time, which either accepted or rejected the authority of the Veda. The authority of the Veda, or the sacredness of the Veda. Those which accept the orthodox Hindu view and the resulting practices were known as asatika. Asatika mean there exists. Asatika. And those which rejected the orthodox view were known as nasatika. Nastika mean there does not exist. The three of nasatika school of thought to survive this period were at this period Jalavaka or materialism, Jainism, the contemporary religion of Buddhism, and Buddhism. These three philosophy, the three school of thought, right? Rejected the authority of the Veda, especially Buddhism. We will know in next slide. The Buddha deny the authority of the Veda. In the Tipitaka, there are many evidences. There are many sources that the Buddha reject the authority of the Veda. Okay. Brahmanism held the universe was governed by a supreme being known as Brahman. A supreme being, Brahman, or Paramatman. You can call Paramatman, a Brahman, universal self. The purpose of one life was to live in accordance with the divine order by performing one Dhamma. Dhamma here means duty, right? One Dharma, one Dhamma or Dharma, in Pali Dhamma, with the proper Karma action in order to eventually find release from the cycle of rebirth, samsara. We should know Brahmanism and Hinduism teach about the cycle of rebirth or samsara. Same in Buddhism. Karma has the idea, the teaching of karma, dhamma, karma, and the samsara, same, but different in detail. At this point, the individual soul or Atman, the individual self or individual soul, would attain union with the universal self. Universal self means Brahman or Brahman, and experience complete liberation and peace. Liberation and peace. Okay, this is the different standpoint between Brahmanism and Buddhism. Buddhism deny or reject individuals, both individual self and universal self. But Brahmanism accept individual self and universal selves. Okay, and the final enlightenment or the final liberation also different. For Brahmanism, the complete liberation or the final liberation mean to unify, right? To obtain union with the universal self, yourself or individual self, obtain union with the universal self. This is what we call complete liberation according to Brahmanism. But according to Buddhism, to attain the complete liberation mean to attain nibbana or nirvana. Nirvana without self or universal self. No self, no universal self. Even nibbana. Nibbana is, as you know, nibbana is not self. No self, not self. So this is the different standpoint between Brahmanism and Buddhism. Okay. Let's talk about one of three schools that reject the authority of the Veda, Charavaka, or materialism, right? Materialism. Indian materialism. Even at the Buddha time, there was a materialism taught by one teacher, one of the Sikh teacher. You may know one of the Sikh teacher named Achita Kesa Kampala. Teacher Achita Kesa Kampala. He honed materialism. Charavaka rejected this belief. I mean Brahmanical belief, Vedic belief, this belief, and offer materialism instead. His founder, Parihaspati, circa about 600 before Christian era. Maybe at the same time, at the Buddha time, claim it was ridiculous for people to accept the word of Vedic priests. He established a school based on, for example, the pursuit of sensual pleasure at the highest goal in life. Okay, we can maybe Kama Sukhalika Nuyoka and อัตตกิรมัฏฐานเจ้าค่ะ too extreme in term of way of life. The first one, self gratification or self indulgence, right? Self gratification. Self gratification. Believe that the highest happiness or the highest pleasure come from consuming the material object, right? The material object. So maybe Jalavaka is one of the two extreme, right? It's one of the two extreme. That is Kama Sukhalika Yoga or materialism, right? Because Jalavaka believe that our sensual pleasure, right? The highest happiness, the highest pleasure come from eating, consuming material thing. Your happiness, the highest happiness come from consuming material thing. This is the ideal, right? Ideal or the goal, the highest goal of life, according to Jalavaka. The Buddha disagree with this way of life. So this is why he taught the what we call the middle way, right? Majjhima Patipatha, the middle way. And in the Dhammacakkavatana Sutta, Tave me bhikkhave, Tave me bhikkhave upo ante anupakhamma majjhima patipatha tatha khatena abhisamputtha. Avoiding these two extremes, the Tathagata has awakened to the middle way, right? Had awakened to the middle way. Okay. Next, Jainism. Jainism. Nikantha. In Pali. Nikantha Nataputta. The founder of Jainism named Mahavira, also known as Varatamana, about 599 to 577 BCE before Christian era. He is the contemporary of the Buddha. Preach Jainism based on the belief that individual discipline and strict adherence to a moral code led to a better life and release from samsara at death. Really, really strict. Jainism really, really strict. But even the Jainism rejected the authority of the Veda, but in detail is different from Buddhism. Different from Buddhism, different standpoint from the Buddha. The Buddha hold that there is no self, right? There is no self in our life or in our life and in the other and in anywhere. No self. But for Chinese, we have the self that's called jiva, permanent self, jiva. This is one name used to call the essence or the substance in our life. For Jainism, call self as Shiva, right? The Buddha recognized both of these paths represented extreme, right? Represented extreme, and found what he called the middle way between them. The middle way is the way avoiding two extreme, not the way combine the two extreme together. We should keep in our mind that the middle way according to the Buddha, according to Buddhism, not the way the two extreme together and divided by two, but is the way avoided the two extreme, not related to extreme, not related to extreme, deny the two extreme, and the one own way, right? The one only in between them. Okay, this picture I would like to show the text and context. You can see, take a look, you can see Buddhism surrounded by the ancient Indian background, ancient Indian culture, religion, culture, and belief, society. For example, the sacrificial rite or sacrifice or yanja, and yanja in Pali, and the sacrificial yan rite, the caste system, the religion like Jainism, like materialism, the superstition, the permanent self belief, the belief in the permanent self. These are the social environment at the Buddha time, before and at the Buddha time. So when you try to understand Buddhism, when you want to know Buddhism, why the Buddha taught like this, why the Buddha taught like this, why the Buddha think like this, why the Buddha said like this, why the Buddha do what he do, why the Buddha did what he did, he taught, why the Buddha behave what we behave. Right? We can understand why he do like this, why he said like this in the context, within the context of ancient Indian society, that I call the text and context. Buddhism means the text. Ancient Indian society, I mean the context. Okay. The Buddha, okay, let me talk about the Buddha and two practical extreme. There are two types of extreme in the Tipitaka at the Buddha time. There are two types of extreme. The two practical extreme, and the two extreme in terms of reality, right? Reality. For example, in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the Buddha taught the middle way in the context of two practical extreme, and follow Bhikkhu in Pali. In Pali, Tave me Bhikkhave Tave me Bhikkhave Anta Pappachitena Nase Vidapha Yo Jayang Kame Sukama Sukhallika Nuyo Kohi no Kammo Potutchaniko Anariyo Anatta Sanhito Yo Jayang Atta Kilamatanu Yoko Tukko Anariyo Anatta Sanhito. In English, bhikkhus, these two extremes should not be followed by one who has gone forth into homelessness. One who has gone forth into homelessness means ปัปปชิตะนะปัปปชิตะ what to pressure which is low vulgar the way of worldly low hino นะ vulgar common the way of worldly or tushanico ignoble anariyo unbeneficial anatta sanhito and the pursuit of self mortification อัตตกิรมัฐานุโยโค which is painful ทุกโค ignoble anariyo unbeneficial anatta sanhito without veering toward either of these extremes ชเวเมเอเตเตพิกเวนะเอเตเตพิกเวอุโพอันเตอนุปคัมมะอนุปคัมมะ without veering toward either of these extremes the Tathagata has awakened to the middle way มัชฌิมาปฏิปทาตถาคเตนะอภิสัมพุทธาอภิสัมพุทธา Okay this sutta show the context in society at the Buddha time